Hey, it's Elisa, and today I'm going to walk you through my answer for IELTS Speaking Part 2 question about goal setting. So as of right now, I don't have my answer yet. I am going to walk you through me making my answer so that you can see what I do and you can do it too. One of the things I'm going to keep in mind is the structure that I like to use for part 2. I like to make sure that I know what my first sentence is going to be, give some sort of background information about whatever it is that I'm talking about, make sure that I am giving one or two reasons and perhaps an example. So all of these things will allow me to speak for the full 2 minutes and plan out what I'm going to say so that I don't get lost or nervous, or at least I'm less nervous while I'm speaking. The other thing that I want to keep in mind are certain idioms that I know are pretty easy to fit into any IELTS questions. I have a whole video on those. I will make sure that they are in the description below, but these are idioms that either mean happy, relaxed, or easy, and I'm going to make sure that I put at least 2 of those in this question. So the first thing that we have to do in answering this question is figure out what goal we're going to talk about. So this can be a goal that is real, it can be a goal that you've actually already accomplished, it can be a goal that you're working on now, or it can be a goal that you're never going to achieve. It does not matter. All right, so some basic things that we can have goals for. School, like getting a certain degree or getting a certain grade, getting into a certain program. Work goals, maybe you want to achieve a certain amount of sales for the year. Maybe you want to get a promotion. You can do lifestyle goals, like maybe you want to make sure that you take enough time off for yourself, or maybe you want to have a certain routine that will help you be more relaxed or more productive. I think I'm going to choose that last category. I'm going to talk about self-care goals. So you should take the time to figure out what goal you're going to write about, and then that way you can answer this question right along with me, because right now neither one of us has an answer. Okay, so I know I'm going to talk about lifestyle goals, and that's probably not the first kind of goal that someone would think of when they're talking about goal setting. So my opening sentence might speak to that. I might say something like, this might be a bit of an unusual goal, and start that way. So I'm going to make sure that I have a goal that either has multiple steps or a goal that has multiple parts. So since my goal is about self-care, I'm thinking that I can come up with an entire self-care routine that is my goal. So my routine can have as many parts as I need it to in order to fill the 2 minutes. If you're talking about school, maybe you're talking about getting a bachelor's or a master's degree, then you know that there are certain steps that it takes to get that kind of a degree. Maybe you've got to get into the school first. You could start with getting through your first year classes. When you go back to the structure, instead of having reasons, we're going to have steps. So I want to make sure that I have at least 2 steps that I can talk about and an example. If I can't think of an example, then I'll have at least 3 steps. The other great thing about steps is that if you happen to be in the exam and, oh no, you're done talking, but you still have 30 seconds left, it's not that hard to slip in another step. But I do want to give the disclaimer, if you've given a really good answer, even if you do have 30 seconds left, if you truly can't think of anything intelligent to say, stop talking. It is better to stop talking than it is to mumble something that doesn't make any sense. So my overall goal is about self-care, but why do I need to reach this goal? And you should think about the same thing. So if you're talking about a degree, why is it that you want to get the degree? That could be some really good background information that you talk about right after your first sentence. So now that I know what my goal is, I can go ahead and make my first sentence. So it might be something like this. This may sound like an unusual goal, but my goal is to take better care of myself by improving my self-care. So now I'm going to give a little bit of background information, and I'm going to do this by explaining why this is a goal for me. So I'm going to say, over the past few years, I've been going 1,000,000 miles per hour. This has resulted in me being tired and moody, and I really want to change that. So if you were talking about a degree or something that you want to achieve at work, you would just explain why that is important to you. Now I'm going to announce what my 2 steps are. This is important because I am specifying my goals. So remember, the steps are part of the structure. For me, those 2 steps are are I'm going to meditate every morning and I'm going to take a bath every night. So in my answer, I'm going to say, I've determined the easiest way to do this is to spend 15 minutes meditating every morning and to take a nice, long, hot bath each evening. So this will help me stay on task. I know I'm only going to talk about meditating and I'm only going to talk about taking a bath. A lot of these questions talk about a goal you've already achieved or the steps you've taken to do it, or how you achieved it. And so the next part might vary just a little bit depending on the specific question that you're going to answer, but we're going to keep it general so that we can answer multiple questions with this same answer. You know I like to do that. A lot of these questions ask you when you started this goal or when you set the goal. I'm going to put that in right now and use it to kind of transition into actually talking about the goal. You can put that now, you can put that at the very beginning. Okay, so what I'm going to say next is I started this goal at the beginning of the year and I think it's going pretty well so far. Going disastrously. Or you can say, I'm happy to report that I have completed my goal. So now, as part of my transition, I'm going to say what the hardest part of the goal was. To me, this just seems like the easiest way to transition into talking about the 2 steps that I'm taking. What I'm going to say now is the hardest part of the goal was actually stopping what I was doing and taking time for myself. So now I'm going to first start with meditation. I'm going to fully finish meditation and then I'm going to get into bath time. So you want to do the same thing. So whatever your steps are, you want to fully talk about one, then you want to fully talk about the other, and that's it. So continuing on with the hardest part, because that's what I just said, and that's why I'm using it as a transition, I am now going to say, you wouldn't think taking out 15 minutes in the morning would be that challenging, but it was for me, or it turned out to be harder than I thought it would be. Then I say, I tried many different ways to try to do this. So this is also a nice little phrase that you can put in because it allows you to start listing things. So I tried many different ways to pass my math class, or I tried many different ways to reach my sales goal. And then you can start listing, I tried this, I tried this, I tried this, and this is going to kind of serve as my example. This is the one where I take a little bit more time on, and this list is kind of serving as my example because I think my answer is going to be long enough without getting too in-depth. So now I'm listing. I tried waking up 15 minutes earlier and sitting on the sofa and meditating. It turns out I didn't actually feel like getting out of bed. So I'm listing, I tried this, but it didn't work because of this. Then I tried this, but it didn't work because of this. So if they also ask you about a goal that was challenging, you can use this answer for that too, and you can just play up how hard it was for you to achieve your goal. Then I say, then I tried going in front of the window and meditating, hoping that the sun would wake me up. That didn't work either. And now I'm going to give you the thing that actually worked. So if I was looking at the clock and I was like, ooh, I still have a lot of time left, I could give you another thing. So I tell you what finally worked. Ultimately, I settled on a guided meditation while still lying in bed for 15 minutes. I told myself it would be like getting an extra 15 minutes of sleep. So I tell you what finally worked, and then I tell you why. My why is silly, but I tell you why. When you need to fill in time, ask yourself why you have the goal or why you're doing something or why it worked, and then talk. And usually that will help you fill up time. Now I'm going to get in an idiom. Now, I've got my 15 idioms in my head. Well, maybe not 15. Maybe I have like 5 or 6 idioms in my head from the 3 categories: happy, relaxing, easy. I'm going to use one of them here. What I'm going to say is this. And believe it or not, it was easy as pie once I started doing it that way. Now I'm going to move on to my next step, which is bath time. So I'm going to kind of transition and I'm going to do the same thing. This was my goal. This is why it was hard, but I did it. This is how I did it. I think of baths as being super relaxing. So I know that at some point when I say this, I'm going to use a relaxing idiom. You would think taking a bath at night would be a pretty simple task. But I have so much going on during the day that I've never really given myself time to let my hair down. I just kind of crash at night. So I've given you the problem. I've told you why it's hard. Now I'm going to tell you what I'm doing to achieve my goal. But I made out a schedule that allows me to have an extra hour every evening. I make sure that everything is done and everybody knows that this hour is just for me. Now I'm gonna kind of continue in telling you why it was hard, but in this case, I'm just gonna tell you how long it took for me to reach this goal. But anyway, I'm now gonna say, it probably took about a month for me to get everything sorted so I can make this commitment. But I can happily say I'm at the point where I can let loose and take a nice long hot bath every evening. So you notice I said let my hair down. I've never been able to let my hair down, and then now I can let loose. I actually got 2 relaxing idioms in there, but I just said the word happy. And I went, ooh, happy idiom. So we're gonna add in a happy idiom as I wrap this up. And you see the steps are broad, they're general. So you wanna make sure that whatever plan you come in with as far as structure goes, it's broad. You are kind of giving yourself categories. You're allowing yourself enough flexibility with your structure in order for you to pivot if you need to. Okay, so now I say, I'm as happy as a clam. Then I go on to say, but most importantly, I've reached my overall goal of taking better care of myself. Whatever answer you come up with, it's probably easier if you say you've achieved the goal. That way, if you get a question like that, you don't have to build that in and only have to kind of make things longer or emphasize them more in order to like switch things up. So then I just wrap up what I'm saying. I am no longer tired all the time and my mood has improved as well. And so that was just how I went through this with you as you went through this. So hopefully you have an answer too. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to read my answer out loud. I will show it to you on the screen so that you can see my full answer. And I'm going to time it. I like to time my answers and I like them to be about 1:30 seconds to 1:40 or 1:45 seconds as I'm reading it, because when you're in the actual exam, you're going to be nervous, you're going to say, you're going to talk a little bit slower, you're going to pause more. So you don't need your answer to be a full 2 minutes as you're reading it in practice. This may seem like an unusual goal, but my goal is to take better care of myself by improving my self-care. Over the past few years, I've been going 1,000,000 miles an hour. This has resulted in me being tired and moody, and I really want to change that. I've determined the easiest way to do this is to spend 15 minutes meditating every morning and to take a nice long hot bath each evening. I started this goal at the beginning of the year, and I think it's going pretty well so far. The hardest part about the goal was actually stopping what I was doing and taking time for myself. You wouldn't think taking out 15 minutes in the morning would be that challenging, but it was for me. I tried many different ways to do this. I tried waking up 15 minutes earlier and sitting on the sofa and meditating. It turns out I didn't actually feel like getting out of bed. Then I tried going in front of the window and meditating, hoping that the sun would wake me up. That didn't work either. Ultimately, I settled on using a guided meditation while still laying in bed for 15 minutes. I told myself it would be like getting an extra 15 minutes of sleep. And believe it or not, it was easy as pie once I started doing it this way. You would think taking a bath at night would be a pretty simple task. But I had so much going on during the day that I've really never given myself time to let my hair down. I just kind of crash at night. But I made out a schedule that allows me to have an extra hour every evening. I make sure that everything is done and everybody knows that this hour is just for me. It probably took about a month for me to be able to get everything sorted so I can make this commitment. But I can happily say at this point I am able to let loose and take a nice long hot bath every single evening. I'm as happy as a clam. But most importantly, I have reached my overall goal of taking better care of myself. I am no longer tired all the time and my mood has improved as well. Okay, so when I timed that, I was right about at 2 minutes, which means if I were to say this in the exam, there's a good chance it would go over 2 minutes and I would get cut off. Fine. I'm okay with that. As long as you give a great answer, it doesn't really matter if they cut you off. That's just part of the process. So I'm not going to shorten it. I'm just going to leave it as it is. What I am going to make sure that I do is I'm going to make sure that I've got my 2 idioms early enough so that I probably won't get cut off. And looking at my answer, I think I do. I think I'll be good there. We've come up with a great answer. Let me know how your answer went, and you can check out lots of other IELTS questions that I answer on this channel. Bye.